We're up to our fourth pool in this series, and the way things are going, I'll probably be swimming in North Sydney soon. I'm starting to like this. It's a good thing to do. On last week's Wednesday ride, we took a shortcut down to the Cooks River that took us close to the Ashfield Pool. So I thought, why not take the long way round, essentially doing a reverse of our route down to the Cooks River. In other words, ride over to the Greenway, take it down to the Cooks River, and then ride west until I hit Croydon Road, and then turn north and head back towards Five Dock, stopping in at the Ashfield Pool on the way. The whole idea was to get a bit more exercise than just going straight to the pool, because I figured that if I rode directly to the pool, the ride would be over before it began. And where's the fun in that? It was a beautiful day, I had time to spare, so yeah, why not? Now, I was wondering why anyone would want to take this short way down to the Cooks River, and of course then I hit the underpass at Canterbury Road, and boom, this light bulb went off in my head. That's why. Anything to avoid this monstrosity under the road here. And when I got to the turn off onto Croydon Avenue, I was about 11 kilometres into the ride and I was thinking it was pretty cruisy. My memory of coming the other way the week before was of a fairly casual and easy ride down some pretty rotten roads. About a minute later, I suddenly realised that I now needed to climb back up those same awful roads. Croydon Avenue is just one long, narrow lane smothered in seams, dead asphalt and parked cars. You climb up a long rise, then descend a tiny little bit, then another climb, and then a slight descent, and another climb. Now, I don't mind the grinding, but there's not a lot of road space next to the parked cars, and you live in this tight little space in between being doored on one side and close past on the other. I'd hate to do it with a lot of traffic coming up behind. It's a pretty ugly road. On the other hand, it's not a bad spot if you need to do some training away from the flatlands. It certainly warmed me up for a swim, I'll give it that. When I do this next time, I'm going to try out the parallel smaller roads like Hay Street, which will hopefully be a bit quieter and won't have to stress so much about the traffic. Now, you might be wondering why I'm going on about riding to this pool from the south when this series is supposed to be about riding to pools from Canada Bay. I was also wondering about that too, but then I decided that what I was really doing was testing access from all directions to see if there was a pleasant, safe and easy way to get to this pool. So far I've got to say the answer is no. Riding there from any direction is actually pretty crap. It's a good thing they've built a nice big car park on the grounds because people are going to need it. Now, after looking at the Google satellite view, which shows how the site looked a year ago, you can do this for yourself, it looks like the council purchased several adjacent properties and demolished existing houses to expand the car park. I have a friend who likes to talk about the idea of revealed preferences. That is, instead of listening to what people say they're going to do in a certain situation, look at what they actually do. That's their revealed preference. If the council says it wants to reduce car dependence, but then builds a bigger car park, what are we supposed to believe? Look at the revealed preferences, not the nice media releases. Anyway, the pool now has more car parking. What's the bike parking like? Now, I had no idea where the bike parking was going to be, so I rode into the first car park I found to start with and thought, I'm not locking my bike up there. That location completely ignores the principles of crime prevention through environmental design, which has the catchy acronym of CPTED. Yeah, try saying that. For me, the best way to provide natural surveillance is to stick the bike rack near the front door and make sure the staff working behind the front desk can see the bikes when they're standing at the counter serving customers. That's the best way to stop thieves from stealing them. Anyway, a minute later, I found that there were in fact bike racks closer to the front door, but whilst this location is better, they still can't be seen from the front counter. My guess is that the designer didn't want to clutter the entrance with bikes. For some reason, they find bike parking to be messy and unattractive, whilst at the same time dedicating 40% or more of the site to car parking. Go figure. There's only 4 racks for bikes out the front, which makes me wonder if council did an analysis on the bike end-of-trip facilities based on the DCP 2007. DCP, by the way, stands for Development Control Plan. Good old Google. We have to remember that the design process started when this was controlled by Ashfield Council, and I'm guessing the Ashfield DCP at the time didn't include a way to formally analyse bike parking requirements. And when the design was picked up by the Inner West Council, no one thought to do an analysis based on the Inner West Council DCP. Now, there were 2 other bikes parked here when I arrived, but that had grown to 5 other bikes by the time I left. So, people are cycling there, the racks are getting used. When I was unlocking my bike to leave, a lady arrived and I asked her what she thought of the pool complex and riding to it. Her thoughts were, A, the council spent way too much money on the place, including some unnecessary features, and it was now too expensive for her to swim there. She was a pensioner, and the pensioner rates had gone up quite considerably. And B, cycling there was an absolute nightmare and not for the faint-hearted. And that pretty much backed up my conclusion that cycling there is a bit like going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. It's possible to do the trip and survive it, but it's not the recommended way to do it. Now, thankfully, there's a nice little cafe called Peaberry just up the road. Peaberry, where I was able to stop for a snack and collect my thoughts, which was good because the ride home was so ridiculously quick, I wouldn't have had time to digest the experience. It took me a bit over 7 minutes to get home from Peaberry, a distance of around 2.5 kilometres. I realised after I got home that the pool is so close, I could actually walk there and back. If my bike does get stolen, I know I'll be able to get home. I didn't take any photos or videos when I was inside the pool complex, but if you Google the Ashfield Pool, you can watch a 7-minute video extolling the virtues of the place. The pools are really, really nice. Yes, they spent a lot of money, but all that money did buy some fabulous swimming facilities, except that the filter for the big outside pool was broken when I got there, so we had to swim in the smaller outside pool, which is 33 metres rather than 50. No big problem. The water is absolutely crystal clear and it almost tastes like tap water. This isn't one of those places where they believe you can only swim in either brine or a bath of hydrochloric acid. Of the 4 aquatic centres I've swum in so far, I would rate Ashfield best for pool quality, and it really is that good. It probably also wins on pool quantity. There are pools here for absolutely everyone. The change rooms are also really good, as you'd expect of something that has only been open for a short time. The lockers are nice and big, and the locks work. I found, for instance, that when I went to Leichhardt earlier this week for a swim, many of the locks on the lockers in the male change room had rusted and no longer function properly. What use is a locker that doesn't lock? The layout of the change rooms is also really sensible. There are pools on both sides, so you can enter from both sides. I know that's a small thing, but you know what designers are like. Some decide, oh, we're only going to put a door on one side, and if you want to get to the pool around the other side, you've got to walk all the way around the building. There's also some sort of family waiting or change area that I just glanced at, and lockers outside the change rooms. Now that makes sense too. Let's say the whole family has gone to the pool and you want to lock stuff up, and you end up locking up some stuff in the ladies' change room in one locker and some stuff in the men's change room in another locker. And you're actually better off locking up all the family stuff in one locker in an outside area that's accessible to everybody, so anyone in the family can access your locker and get stuff out. A lot of pools don't have that. They don't think of simple stuff like that. Now there's a gym upstairs, which I didn't go and have a look at. Don't ask me why they decided to add a gym when there's an Anytime Fitness gym just up the road. It would have cost an absolute bomb to add another floor to the building, and of course you then need to add a lift to access the upper floor. I guess consultants told them they needed a gym, so they added one, and then the consultants told them they needed a lift for easy access, and so they added that too. Wonder if the consultants told them how much it cost to run a lift each year, but who knows. It's no wonder the project started off with a budget of $14 million and ended up costing $44.7 million, just a $30 million blowout. You need to get a lot of people through the turnstiles to pay for that. Also, it's fascinating that council would decide to spend another $30 million on aquatic infrastructure, but you can imagine their reaction if you asked them to spend another $30 million on cycling infrastructure. It'd be, screaming and running out the door. It just goes to show that I think mindset and perception are everything when it comes to this type of investment. Will I go back to the pool? The answer is certainly yes, because I really like the place for doing laps. It's excellent. But as I said earlier, I'm going to try out some different routes to get there. I really don't want to be riding up and down Croydon Road if I can help it. I know this might sound odd, but I'm even considering riding out to Broughton Street, crossing Parramatta Road using the overbridge there, and then approaching from the west. I doubt it will be much better actually, but at least it avoids the struggle of getting across Parramatta Road at Croydon Road at the traffic lights, and if you know what that's like in peak hour, you can easily spend 20 minutes waiting to get across. To sum up, it's a very, very nice but very expensive facility that probably needs a multi-storey car park, because cycling there is no fun at all. In other words, out of the 4 pools visited so far, it's the best to swim at, but the worst to cycle to. Now, this table is completely subjective and I made it up on the spot and it's based on my preferences, including my dislike of pools that are over-salted or over-chlorinated. But would you cycle to these pools with your kids? Now, depending on where you live, not always, obviously, depending on where you live is going to depend whether you've got a cycling route that's safe to these pools, but okay, let's move on. There are some safe cycling routes to 3 of the pools in this list, but I tossed up between giving Ashfield between 0 or 1 for cycling safety because I can't see any way to get there safely, except maybe from parachuting into the place. Yeah, in fact, parachuting might actually be safer without a reserve parachute. I gave Leichhardt the top score for cycling simply because the bike racks are right next door to the front entrance and have slightly better natural surveillance than the other pools. Ashfield, it's a great place to swim, but I'm not dying to cycle there.